$150,000, they're going to pay 100, not even 100. Yeah. How can they do that? Well, first and foremost, we know that unfortunately most people don't have enough health insurance, and this is a giant tax dodge. They're going to write a bunch of their profits off. They're going to write a bunch of it off. It's going to fall onto the back of the taxpayers, and it's an accounting gimmick. So when I almost had the heart attack looking at the bill, well, I'm going to be okay. And then the other part of it, the more nefarious, the worst part of it for me is, let's say you didn't have enough health insurance, but you owned a home. Do you think that person's going to get the $92,998.02 bill that I got? Or are they going to get the $550,000 bill? And then they'll graciously give you a 10% discount. And this is where my mind goes into just how bad our system is. Was the hospital bad? No, they were good. Were the workers bad? No, they were doing their jobs. Everybody in this system is part of the cog. Is a wheel part of the cog in the wheel. It's the wheel that's broken. It's the system that we've allowed to be propped up with hedge fund managers and bean counters thinking about healthcare as a for-profit industry instead of as a care industry. Because I got to be honest, as good as people have been, the care, in my view, has been subpar. And I understand, I get that the nurses and the CNAs and all of the staff are still burnt out from the pandemic. I completely get that. And I get that as a society, we've gotten much harder and much harsher to each other. I get that. But what happened to the care in healthcare? When everything's done for a profit. And as I've told the story before, I'm in a weird spot because my insurer, our health and welfare fund, actually went to bat to keep my wife in the hospital where the doctor wanted to discharge her weeks ago, while agreeing that the hospital is where she should be. This is how weird and how broken our system is. Now, do I think something wrong with the doctor or with the people? No. I think they've been trained into a system that is, again, badly broken. And it's not going to get any better in the next 4 years. If anything, this broken healthcare system is going to get much more lopsided to where working people are going to continue to get screwed over, especially people in rural America. As Doge Boy and the rest of those clowns go after Medicaid, understand that's poor people, that's rural people, that's folks at the bottom of the end of the economic spectrum. That's you and me. So for me, the lesson in all of this, especially during the holiday season, is how do we start thinking about each other again, especially during this time? How do we make sure that everyone gets access to the best health care, to the best opportunity of survival? Not just those of us like me, fortunate enough to have really good insurance. It should be about care, not about the card in your wallet. Want to hear your thoughts? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Miss any portion of the program, grab the podcast. And as always, thanks so much for being here. We'll see you back here next time.
You've been listening to The Rick Smith Show. Email Rick at rick@thericksmithshow.com. Until next time, this has been The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.
This is AP News. I'm Rita Foley. Several hundred people gathered last night to remember the 2 people killed and 6 wounded in a school shooting Monday in Madison, Wisconsin. The AP's Jennifer King.
At a vigil outside Wisconsin's state capitol Tuesday night, community members held candles as they gathered to honor those slain and injured in a shooting at Abundant Life Christian School in Madison the day before.
There was blood on the floor and down the stairs.
Naomi Allen was in a classroom nearby when a 15-year-old girl targeted students and teachers in a study hall before fatally shooting herself.
It's still kind of hard to think and feel feelings.
School shootings by teenage females have been extremely rare in U.S. history. Madison Police Chief Sean Barnes said the motive appears to be a combination of factors.
We're looking into her online activity.
Barnes says police are investigating writings that may have been penned by the shooter and could shed light on her actions. I'm Jennifer King.
There is a new allegation against the man accused of killing United Healthcare's CEO, murder as an act of terrorism. Luigi Mangione had already been charged with murder, but the terror allegation is new. Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg.
This was a frightening, well-planned, targeted murder that was intended to cause shock and attention and intimidation. It occurred in one of the most bustling parts of our city.
The Manhattan DA, Alvin Bragg. Luigi Mangione is being held without bail in Pennsylvania, where he was arrested at a McDonald's on December 9th. Russia says it's holding a suspect in the killing of a top general in Moscow. The suspect is described as an Uzbek citizen recruited by Ukrainian intelligence services. Nissan and Honda are confirming that they are discussing closer collaboration, but denied reports that they've decided on a merger. This is AP News. Do you have a nuclear bomb shelter? There's an uptick in sales.
Global concerns about nuclear threats have prompted a spike in private bunker sales around the world. The bunkers range in size from small metal boxes with crawl spaces to extravagant underground mansions. In the northeast Texas town of Sulphur Springs, Ron Hubbard operates Atlas Survival Shelters.
Most people surveyed believe that there will be a World War III one day and it will be very catastrophic.
Hubbard says COVID lockdowns, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and the outbreak of the Israel-Hamas war have driven sales. Critics of bunkers say they create the outdated perception that nuclear war is survivable. Massachusetts Congressman Jim McGovern.
Underground bunkers, if we ever get to a point where there's all-out nuclear war, aren't going to protect people.
McGovern says rather than building bunkers, there should be an effort to freeze nuclear weapons production and to engage with countries that have them. I'm Norman Hall.
And I'm Rita Foley, AP News.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few scattered snow showers early today, otherwise cloudy skies with temperatures holding rather steady. Winds out of the northwest around 5 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 20. Tonight, mostly cloudy, a low near 27. By Thursday, a slight chance for snow here late. Cloudy skies, a high of 35 degrees. Friday, a chance for snow, cloudy, and a high around 34. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 35.
WCPT replay.
Donald Trump has purposely chosen some of the worst people possible to be in his cabinet. You know, he takes somebody who's considered a Russian asset, who was on a TSA watch list for her travel, and she's supposed to be director of national intelligence. Take somebody who's a drunk and a rapist, alleged, and put him in charge of cleaning out the military? I mean, honestly, Robert Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy Jr., he's starting to look like the best of the lot. Oh, my God. What world are we in where he looks like the most sane choice? Kash Patel, who already issued a 60-person hit list of people who he thinks the government should go after, basically Trump's enemies. Seriously?
Keep listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter. Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that will focus on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Wednesday morning, progressives, and welcome to the December 18th, getting one closer day, or we're a week out from Christmas, December 18th, 2024 edition of Choose Views, 773-763-9278, Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, Twitter Stream, iHeartRadio, and of course you can email me. And you guys have been really good about emailing me. at Richard at WCPT820.com. Shout out to my man Henry, who's running around. He's got on his, multiple hands doing all kinds of things this morning, where you can catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. That's where you can get, of course, the long version and the short version of what? Choose Views. There you go. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, driving it home with Patty Vasquez, The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath, and of course, Out Chicago and our other wonderful shows and interviews. Check out our heartlandsignal.com digital platform, because that's where you can get lots of good stuff. I talked about this yesterday for a little bit longer than normal in terms of sharing and why that's so important. And I mentioned the email that I received from a listener in central Massachusetts. You say that you got to be really careful when you say that word. I remember when we were growing up, that's a word that we used to think we were slick and thought we could, pretend like we were saying a curse word, if you know what I mean. I know you guys are out there going to go, yeah, Richard, we did that too. However, Massachusetts, a gentleman sent me an email saying that he was really thankful that our programming is here. And I'm glad that I was able to read his email and give him encouragement to keep following us. But the thing I was saying is the importance of sharing and making sure that the information that's out there that we provide gets to you and gets to others in a way that you're actually being an advocate and you're taking charge of the messaging that you have in front of you that you can then pass on and share to other people. And listen, guys, I do this every day. I love the fact that we have our show and that we have our programming here on WCPT. I take this seriously. And when I say it's important to share the information that we have, our shows, everything that we do by going to Heartland Signal, which is such a wonderful partner and part of our team and just what we do and an outlet, is the reason I say it this way is because there's so many people. I was talking with a dear friend of mine yesterday, and shout out to Jim L. I was talking with Jim yesterday, and he made a comment about a dear friend of his that without putting somebody's business in the street, but's been challenged since the election in ways that never thought would be challenged, but that's become the reality that this friend of his is dealing with. And excuse me. And I felt awful listening to this description of what his friend is having to go through. And so what I said is, Jim, I know that, you listen to the show and you follow and you're a supporter and all that, and I'm thankful for that. But pass it on to your friend to listen to the show. That wasn't about being self-serving at all. It's great. I love it when we have new callers and we have new texters and we have new emailers and all the rest. I will tell you, whether it's Patty, whether it's Tom, whether it's Joan, whether it's, gosh, I'm just drawing a blank, Edwin, whether it's any of our shows, anybody on WCPT, Eric, the whole nine. When we get a text or an email or a call, any form of communication, a letter from you guys, from someone that's new to the following, it's a huge, we love it. And we're thankful for it. However, one of the things that, we all know that we have to do in this role, in this position, with this responsibility, is to let folks know. And you may be surprised by the number of people that don't have an outlet, a place to go to talk about how this current time that we're in and that we're about to be in is impacting them. And one of the worst things that can happen is for a person to become isolated. And we know that there are folks that have become, they were already in some ways. They may not have been able to get out and campaign and to knock on doors. And didn't have the time or the capacity to send out postcards and do any of the things that people did during a campaign season. And so they may have been somewhat isolated prior to the election. But now, since the election, we know that person's isolation may have increased or escalated. And so part of our job as progressive liberal Democrats, trust me when I say this, and please, 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 walk with me on this one. Don't be encouraged. I like to put things in a positive wording. Be encouraged that you can be a resource for people who need to be connected and to be taken out of their isolation. Trust me when I tell you that. You just don't know who that person is that's out there that needs to not only needs to talk to someone else in their network. And let me put it to you this way so you really understand what I'm talking about. That person could be somebody that has a bachelor's degree, master's degree, PhD, and doing their thing. But in this space, there's a sense of isolation that they're going through and dealing with. Okay? And when I was kind of putting some of my notes together and thoughts together yesterday, I hearkened back to this conversation with my friend Jim. And I thought, I want to talk about that a little bit. And I know that today we have Kurt Mullet on, and he and I are going to talk about some things in that space in terms of the end of the year, because this will be our last Wednesday together, because next Wednesday will be a special rebroadcast, and the same thing on New Year's, because they happen to land on Wednesday. So I said to Kurt, let's talk about end of the year and how we want to be, what we want folks to hear from the two of us as we come through this part of the holiday season. But he will tell you that there are folks out there that are struggling. And when I had this conversation with my good friend Jim yesterday, and he was sharing some things with me and my wife, I thought, I want to speak to this to the best that I can, and from the heart and from the mind, but strategically. And strategically, meaning the sharing and the giving, looking for a gift to give somebody this year for the holiday season, help them subscribe to the podcast. Not to promote me or promote CPT or any of our wonderful team members, but to help that person in this struggle, to give them a place to turn to so they don't feel isolated. And I know that, this is me. This is the same guy that geeked out yesterday about, when we were talking to the folks over at the Studebaker Theater yesterday and the day before. So, this is that same guy. When we were talking to Jacob Harvey yesterday, and I geeked out about the Fine Arts Building. It's the same guy that's going to tell you, listen, the people that are out there that need to be connected right now, maybe the gift that you can give them is the gift of another progressive outlet, or maybe their very first one. Maybe they don't even know about progressive radio. Maybe they don't know about Choose Views or Stephanie Miller's show or Tom Hartman or Joan Esposito or Patty Vasquez or Edwin Eisendrath or, Out Chicago or The Family Meeting or any of the shows on any of the progressive stations that are out there or podcasts. They don't know about True Blue Politics podcast with our good friend Karen Byrne. They don't know about Hoosier Blue 63 with Kurt Mullet. They don't know about any of the folks that any of us marinate together with. And that could be the best gift that you could give a family member or a friend or a colleague that gives the impression that they're doing okay, but they may not actually be. And they may not feel it's safe to tell somebody that has looked up to them, frankly, or has thought that they were the strong person in the room. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Press pause for a moment and just think about this. How many people do you know in your life that they are the person that when you see them, they seem like the strong person, they got it all worked out, get it all figured out? And y'all know what I'm talking about. But when you think about it and you step away, they might be having some challenges with this election outcome and where we are and where we're headed. And they may be married with a house full of children. They may be single. They may be whatever. But I want you to just take a pause and ask yourself, is there somebody that I can reach out to, somebody's plural, and just check in and make sure they're doing all right? And maybe providing them with the access to my crazy voice in the morning, or to Stephanie and her silliness and her humor, or Professor Tom, or Joan, career journalist, legendary, or Patty, a mix of all of us, can do for them. You don't know. So I just wanted to give you guys this as a reminder. This could be a gift to them. Letting them know about the Apple Podcast and the Spotify, going there for the WCPT podcast, mine, and the work that we're doing. Just think about it. Just think about it, because it really, it didn't break my heart, but it definitely got my attention when my friend Jim shared this with me yesterday. And I said, you know what, I'm going to speak to that this morning because I feel responsible, that it's my responsibility to do that. So there you go, guys. Just being me. I'm hoping you guys are understanding where I'm coming from in that space. Make sure you send me texts this morning. I love getting your texts this week. We're going to get my laptop in here, got all my my stuff with me so that we can be as good as possible in reaching out to you guys if you can't make a call in. But the number, of course, as always, is 773-763-9278. I know that a lot of people are looking at what's going on with the Orange Menace and his craziness and all the bouncing back and forth between the interviews, and people are asking, what's he going to say next that's stupid, and how are we going to navigate through that? But I promise you this, we will, and that's kind of what we're going to try to keep doing with the show for the rest of the year, is keep everybody's moving in the right direction as best possible. And I love the fact that a couple of you guys said yesterday that when I asked a question, I should say, about what do you do with that family member, that colleague that openly says that they voted for Trump, and you would have never thought that they were the one that was going to do it. I want to hear from you guys again in that space. What will you do when you encounter that person that is that tells you, yeah, I voted for Trump this time around? First time around, okay, all right. But you got fooled. Now you got fooled again. I mean, you didn't get, here's the thing. That person didn't get fooled. They've had almost a decade to see who this guy is. But I still want to know what you guys are going to do in your calls today. And Henry's going to open up the lines in a moment. I still want to know what you guys are going to do with that person or persons that comes at you with, yeah, I voted for Trump. How are you going to deal with that person? And as Eric Grant says, how are you going to live with that person? How are you going to have, what are they going to represent in your life? I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say in that space. All right, guys, number is 773-763-9278. We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll grab your calls and we'll talk about Choose Views News. We'll be right back.
Are you paying too much for term life insurance? A man age 50 non-tobacco user can obtain $500,000 of coverage for as little as $110 per month. Level rate for 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rate for 20 years. If you're a smoker, there are great rates available for you as well. Call Term Busters for a quote. 1-800-908-7636. You're probably paying more than you should. Call 1-800-908-7636. Remember, call Term Busters. 1-800-908-7636. Sample rate for preferred non-tobacco rate class. Exam required to qualify.
Have you heard? Affordable healthcare is better than ever. And right now there are more carriers and plans to choose from. If you're between 18 and 64 years old with a household income of $25,000 or less, this message is for you. Right now the government's Affordable Care Act is available for individual and family health coverage plans with little or no cost to you. Don't gamble with your health. Call Healthcare for All at 800-264-0899. That's 800-264-0899.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views. We're going to hit you with a couple of quick news items here on Wednesday, December 18th, 2024. It's going to be a tough balancing act for our Fed. Along with a widely anticipated interest rate cut, the Federal Reserve is expected to deliver quarterly economic projections today that outline a new approach to rates for the upcoming year. The labor market has proven more resilient and has inflation since the central bank kicked off its rate-cutting cycle with a half-point reduction back in September. Economists now expect a more gradual decline in the Fed funds rate. The key rate influences borrowing costs, of course, throughout the economy, including for mortgages, auto loans, and credit cards. FTC restricts hotel and event fees. And this is going to impact a number of people, millions of people, frankly. The United States FTC is taking action against junk fees that are often tacked on the price of hotel rooms and live event tickets. In a 4-1 vote, the commission approved a new rule requiring vendors to disclose the full price of such purchases up front. A move that will save consumers as much as 53 million hours a year figuring out pricing and fees. That right there is a big deal. The rule is narrower than the one that the group proposed last year that would have essentially banned hidden fees no matter what the industry is. I don't have a problem with that last statement, candidly, because the fees, that's an item that just reduces the amount of money that someone has when they're spending for buying these items and doing these things and traveling and all the rest. Walmart is piloting a body camera system. It's trialing out body-worn cameras by some of its employees and some of its U.S. stores, according to CNBC. The company declined to offer specifics about the program, confirming only that it's being tested. Some smaller retailers are also using body cameras to prevent theft, but Walmart's are meant to bolster workers' safety, says one source. I don't know about that. Especially during the busy holiday shopping season when associates and customers alike can be unusually stressed. I get that. Meanwhile, Walmart has teamed up with a Chinese shopping platform, Meituan, to expand its e-commerce operations in that country. And TikTok is in the news again, asking the Supreme Court to delay an impending ban in the United States after its bid for more time was denied by an appeals court on Friday. Lawyers for the video sharing app are advocating for a temporary pause to allow the High Court and the incoming administration to weigh in on the law. The clock is ticking on TikTok's attempts to avoid a ban, which would take effect January 19th. An interesting timing given the inauguration, if it's not sold by its parent, ByteDance. Lawyers have warned Apple and Google to prepare to remove TikTok from their app stores. And out in California, Pacific Gas and Electric, in a big commitment with being California's largest utility, the $15 billion low-interest rate loan will help the company whose bankruptcy restructuring has put off some commercial lenders. It will help them to pay for an upgrade in its grid and reduce emissions, which is certainly a good thing. And last but not least, car purchases are kind of having an impact on retail sales. Surging car purchases drove U.S. retail sales higher last month in November, powered by falling interest rates and year-end discounts at dealerships. Total sales not adjusted for inflation rose 0.07% in November after increasing 0.5% in October. So that looks like that's kind of bumping up. Car sales, which were the highest in 3 years, have been buoyed by a decline in borrowing costs as the Federal Reserve prepares to make an expected third straight cut since September. And that's going to take place, as we said earlier, sometime today. All right, guys, 773-763-9278 is the number. Give us a call, send us a text, let us know you're out there. And I want to know how you're going to deal with, because Thanksgiving came and went, and folks were still in somewhat of a shock over the election and maybe not communicating as much about how they felt about things and maybe how they actually voted. So I do want to know what you guys are going to do when you encounter that person that says, Richard, I voted for Trump. And as I said, last week I talked about an event that I went to, and a part of the conversation that I engaged in was that the Democrats should move to the center. And I definitely don't agree with that. I think we hold ground and we build the ground that we're on. We don't move to the center. We gobble up more territory. And that does not mean moving to the center. It means bringing in the numbers of people that need to be registered and out and voting. I think the big miss, if there is one, that was that the numbers of people that could have voted did not vote and that should have voted who will be impacted by this new administration did not vote. Those are the numbers we need to get. We need to get them across the country and most certainly in the swing states. I think it was Pam that said it best yesterday that the other thing that goes along with that, unfortunately, is the amount of voter suppression and the amount of voter purging that took place and is taking place. That's a fight that we have to get. I would rather see the Democratic leadership both on both in the Senate and the House and state legislatures, particularly state legislatures. If there is a retooling that the Democratic Party should be thinking about in this after action report, because this impacts what we do, not just on a national level. If there is a retooling, if there is a revisiting, if there is a, hey guys, we need to do better in this space, start today or start January, 6th, the first full week of the new year. But Henry, this is what's got to happen. Our message is a great message. There wasn't anything wrong with our message. And when I was talking about my friend Jim, who enlightened me on a friend of his who's struggling, and I said, hey, plug her into the show, plug her into what we're doing here so she's got a place, an outlet. One of the things that I was talking about in that conversation is this person that said to me over the weekend that they voted for Trump also said that the Democratic Party needs to let go of these micro issues. Micro issue, I then said, what? What is that? And, she threw out that, we spend too much time talking about the LGBTQ community. And I said, so what you're saying is about trans community. And, the point I'm making about this is our positions, our ideas are great. They're inclusive, as we should be. We can't be like the others. We don't need to shift and be like, because listen, what going to the center means to me is I'm willing to I'm willing to support taking away women's reproductive rights and other rights. And we go back to, are we going to suddenly go back to a time where a woman can't have her own credit card? That kind of move to the center? That kind of nonsense? I'm not going, as a dude, I'm not, are you crazy? No. That's not going to happen in my lifetime. I know women who I watched that part of our society in my lifetime. And I know a number of you who follow this show and other shows on CPT and across the board in the progressive conversation know what I'm talking about. I'm not moving to the center to embrace that kind of garbage. I'm not moving to the center to take away the ability for young cats like Henry to be able to have a good environment to live and breathe in when cats like me are gone. I'm not moving to the center to make it harder for Henry to breathe. I'm not doing that. I'm not moving to the center to have more of the carnage that took place in that school. I'm not moving to the center on that. I'm certainly not moving to the center on folks who need the disability benefits of Social Security. I'm not moving to the center on that, and on Medicare and Medicaid and military. Why am I? So my point is, I could laundry list all the things I'm not moving to the center on to be more like Republicans. Not doing that. That's not the win. That's not the way to the win. Excuse me. And as we go to this break, I want to say this one thing, and then we'll hit the break and come back. I'm going to pick up on this and want to hear from you guys as well. And it's important to me to know how you're going to deal with the people, because we are approaching, Christmas is next week and then New Year's. These next 2 weeks, you're going to be more than just at Thanksgiving, immersed in conversations with people about the election and about the new administration. You know it, and you may as well get yourself ready to deal with finding out that somebody, because you're going to deal with two things: the sadness from people that you haven't seen since the election and how they're concerned. This is why I pointed out what I said about my conversation with my good friend Jim yesterday. That's one thing that's a certainty that's going to happen. The second thing is you are going to be standing at the counter in the kitchen talking to a family member. You're going to be at a party talking to a colleague. You're going to be at the gym talking to somebody that you know there. And they're going to say to you, well, Richard, I did vote for Trump. You know it as much as you know your name. And Henry got his cool smile on. He's like, yep. And he's nodding his head like, that's sure enough going to happen. It is. And I know I struck a chord with Henry because he's a guy kind of guy. It's going to happen. So I just want to hear where you are, and I want to help if I can in helping you be prepared for those moments. And that's why I keep coming back to this. We're going to talk about when we come back from the break, we're going to talk a little bit more about the Democratic Party. If there is a thing that should have been learned and what we should be focused on now as we go forward. We'll talk about that on the backside of this break. The number, of course, is 773-763-9278. We will be right back.
WCPT replay.
Karen in Chicago.
I have to say this. You know, you talk about the progressive voices that we need. WCPT, Heartland Signal, is one of the most important lineup of voices out there for progressive ideals. And of course, you know, Richard Chew comes on before you guys.
Right. Love him.
Absolutely.
Why does he not name his show Chew on That? I would like that better.
Chew on this.
Choose Views.
Choose News. Yes.
Yeah,
Choose News. That's what it's called. Yeah, it's called Choose Views. But I'm just saying.
News. And it is so important, and we do need to, for anybody out there that they're talking to friends and relatives who are just completely freaked out and in despair, tell everybody about these progressive resources.
Keep listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few scattered snow showers early today, otherwise cloudy skies with temperatures holding rather steady. Winds out of the northwest around 5 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 20. Tonight, mostly cloudy, a low near 27. By Thursday, a slight chance for snow here late. Cloudy skies, a high of 35 degrees. Friday, a chance for snow, cloudy, and a high around 34. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 35.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
You're listening to Choose Views. You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Thanks for your text this morning. I am going to go through those during the next break. But listen, when I asked the question about how you're going to deal with and navigate that person in your family that's going to say to you, yeah, you know, I voted for Trump. And they may whisper it to you, or they may say with a low voice and all that sort of thing. I want to know how you're going to be prepared for that, and how, and if any way, how I can help in the conversation that you may have to have with that person, because it's coming. And just want you guys to understand that conversation is definitely coming. All right. So what do Democrats? One of the learning pieces of this election, and you've seen different numbers in terms of the national voting numbers, a popular vote. It's close, very close. And, you know, we can break down each of the swing states and look at what those numbers were. But at the end of the day, the lesson that I hope is learned by the Democratic Party is that we make more of an effort starting now to deal with voter registration and voter involvement. And my memory serves me reasonably well that we did a decent job, but not a good enough job from 20 to 2024. One of the catalysts behind a lot of things that happened was Stacey Abrams. And she spoke about how we have to stay engaged. And right now, I think the Democratic Party's got to look at, in the swing states, the numbers of people that may not have voted. Not so much, and not just, okay, how do we miss the people that voted for Trump? Those people, y'all gonna be PO'd about me saying this. Many of those people have lost their damn minds because they had the evidence in front of them and they chose that over that wonderful vice president that we have. They just did, y'all. Let's not sugarcoat that anymore. We have to stop sugarcoating that to make people feel less uncomfortable or inconvenienced, as Eric Grant would say. We got to stop doing that as Dems. So the people that walked into that voting booth and voted for Donald Trump in the swing states, where they're going to feel the pinch on their behind probably as quick as any other parts of the country, need to be embarrassed because they made a decision to put the blade to their own wrist. They just did, y'all. Stop calling it something other than that. You let them off the hook when you say, well, but they were concerned. Nah, they weren't concerned about that. If they were uninformed. So let me give them a little bit of space. If they were concerned about price of gas, and I know that there's people that are going to say, well, Richard, you're just kind of blowing over the fact that there's people out there struggling. No, I'm not. Prove it to me. I won't defend it. Prove that I'm blowing over that, and I'm not talking about that from a very important position. What I'm saying is there are people who voted for that orange menace knowing who he is, knowing what he is about to do and try to do. And they made a decision to vote for it. By comparison, and I'm talking swing states now, by comparison, the people who said, yeah, I know who he is, and I'm not going to vote for him and vote for Vice President Harris, I may not know everything about her, but I know I'm not going to go for that. What we have to do is not worry about changing the minds of a crazy or uninformed person that made a decision to put the blade to their wrist out of arrogance or out of willful ignorance, as my good friend Bob Sherrill says. Either out of willful ignorance or out of arrogance or a little bit of both, they made the decision to do that. We may not be able to rescue those people. It's the people who did not participate that the Democratic Party has got to do the job of getting them in the mix. Because that's actually a bigger group of people, Henry. And it might be easier to get them in the game than to get them to play differently. I don't, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I am. It's not about me being right. It's about what's going to be effective. I think the effective thing to do, and Vice President Harris kind of talked a little bit about this in one of her speeches over the last couple of days. We've got to get the group of people that did not show up to show up and get them involved now, not in 2 years, January 6th. If there is a way to memorialize or to put a good light on the date of January 6th, this coming 2025, it's for every one of us to say, doggone it, I'm not going to let anybody that I know not be involved and not vote in these upcoming elections. And the reason that that's important on a local, regional, and national level is because here in Chicago, we had low voter turnout for our mayoral election. Paltry. A big old city like this and like 28%, I think 30% of the total people voted. That's crazy, y'all. And listen, I'm tired of this. I don't like the candidates garbage. That's just such a weak position. I don't like the candidates. My vote doesn't. I know why people say their vote doesn't matter. I get that because then the people get in and things don't change. I get that. Been around long enough to understand that. But that doesn't mean you just roll up your tent and actually get involved. But at the same time, I understand the responsibility of the Democratic Party, probably more than the Republican Party, frankly. It's our responsibility, if we're going to call ourselves a big tent, then we need to open up the doors and show people how to get into the tent. So if I'm calling out our party today, it's not to call out to be a jerk about it. I'm not even calling out. I'm just saying optimistically, this has got to be part of our strategy. And I don't care who's going to be the head. I do care who's going to be the head of the DNC and who's going to be the voice of the Democratic Party going forward. It's interesting how Republicans are trying to tell Kamala Harris to sit down. Meanwhile, and they're not going to do that. They're not going to make that happen. But that's another conversation. Anyhow, our Democratic leadership in the House, the Senate, on the state and local level needs to take the position right now. And these are calls out to our governors in all of our states, to our mayors in all of our cities, to our state officials in all of our states. We have to start right now getting people active and involved in the process, getting those voters out. Because we've heard the phrase, when we show up, we win. Well, that phrase is not inaccurate, but we have to show up with the intent of Well, let me back up. We have to start showing up now rather than just showing up for the national election. We have to show up for our local elections more readily. And so in the conversation about how you're going to deal with the persons in your family and in your crew and in your network of friends and whatever, and business associates that say they voted for Trump, don't waste. Let me put this as positive as I can. Listen to them, maybe ask questions, as I say often, but trying to convince them to do something different may not be the best use of your time and energy. You might be better off talking to someone that maybe felt disenfranchised, maybe felt isolated, maybe felt alone, maybe felt like their vote wasn't going to count. I believe collectively the Democratic Party has to be more proactive and start earlier in doing that work. Okay? I can't not say that, guys. And as part of your conversation with folks these next 2 weeks that are going to say things like I voted for Trump or I didn't vote at all, the people that if there's two folks in the mix or two people that respond, one that says I voted for Trump and the other one says I didn't vote at all, the person that said they voted for Trump, you may not be able to change their mind. Circumstances may be the thing that forces them to vote differently next time around. You know, they may be 1 degree or 2 degrees of separation away from someone that's harmed by some of the things that Trump will do. And maybe that's going to be the lesson that they have to learn. The person that didn't vote, that's a conversation where you want to find out why they didn't vote. And you want to have the conversation in a way that allows them to feel like they're going to be part of something if they do. On a local, regional, national level, on all levels. I think that's where the good stuff is. That's where the more fertile ground is to talk to those folks with questions, find out why they didn't vote, find out what's important to them, because see, what I'm hearing from a lot of people that are trying to be these strategists, listen, I'm a better strategist than those people are, and I'll tell you why, and I'm not patting myself on the back, I'm just talking about it from a purely common sense standpoint. None of these strategists are they talk about, this is what's so crazily ironic about it. You hear these strategists saying the Democratic Party isn't talking to the everyday person. Well, guess what, strategists? The everyday person isn't talking to other everyday people. Y'all hear me? We are as responsible to fixing this as the Democratic leadership is. We have to say to the people next to us, left, right, top, front and back, we have to find out at that Christmas dinner or that Christmas gathering, why didn't that person vote? Because when we know that, then we can be armed to help them real time in the moment, rather than waiting for the big message to come down from on high to get people inspired to vote. And the reason that that's so important, and again, when I look at my notes and talk about this, I have to give some props to my good friend Jim for kind of the thing he put in my brain yesterday about this friend of his. We have to be willing to have the conversations in our own little domains. Our fiefdoms have to be the part of one of the biggest parts of the change. And I applaud people that I know that are doing stuff. I mean, you hear me. You heard me talk about this before. My good friend Karen Byrne, our good friend Karen Byrne from True Blue Politics podcast, she created a walking group, and there's many other folks. Kurt Mullet, who's going to be on with us in a little bit, he's put together some work that he's doing locally, and then these are just two folks. The list goes on. This is part of that local involvement that we have to recapture. And trust me when I tell you, local is the person right next to you that may not have voted. The people that voted for Trump, you got to deal with them. But spend some of your time working with the people who may not have participated. And the groundswell, I believe, and then imagine this. Let me give you this visual. Imagine if the groundswell of individuals who are having conversations with their friends, family, business associates, and all the rest, because you're talking to people about why you got to get involved this next time around, how we can fix this. Imagine that matching up with the Democratic leadership recognizing that they can redirect some resources to get people more involved starting now. And I'm talking to Mayor Johnson. I'm talking to my third ward Alderwoman Pat Dowell, as much as I'm talking to Governor Pritzker, Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton. By the way, shout out to them. I'll talk about something that they got done, as well as the Democratic national leadership. If we have more voter involvement right now, more citizen participation right now, that is going to be as big of a win or part of our strategy as anything else. Because when the national leadership merges with the local participation from folks like us, I believe strongly that's how we get those swing state voters that didn't participate to get in the mix. Help me out, guys. Help me out in that space. I want to hear what you have to say. 773-763-9278. We're going to take a break. We'll be back. We'll grab some of your calls.
Make this season even brighter by lighting up every drive with the unrivaled performance of a new Porsche from the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park. Stop in today to test drive the latest models, including a new 2025 Porsche Cayenne. And right now, lease a new 2025 Macan Electric for $999 a month for 39 months. Visit the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park or PorscheExchange.com. $8,609 due at signing. Excludes tax, title, license, and doc fee. No security deposit required. Expires 1/2/25.
Check Up on Health with Chris Whitting. Surveys show that nearly half of us admit we don't get enough sleep, but few of us take specific actions to change that. Dr. Harold Smith, Director Emeritus of the Center for Sleep Medicine at the University of California, Irvine, says it's a serious health concern.
Sleep is a deep physiologic need. Being sleep deprived is potentially dangerous to your health. Not only will you perform less with sleep deprivation, but you are running the risk of increasing medical problems with sleep deprivation. Your immunity will be lower and you're more likely to get colds and flu and sick. As you get older, your risks of heart disease and stroke and high blood pressure also increase if you're chronically sleep deprived.
And how much sleep is enough?
If you're not feeling refreshed, alert, and awake naturally without caffeinated beverages, then you're not getting enough sleep.
With Checkup on Health, I'm Chris Whitting.
Pro Paint Days are back at Lowe's. That means it's time to save big on your next job. Right now, get your choice of 5-gallon pails of Valspar Signature Ceiling Paint or HGTV Home by Sherwin-Williams Flat Ceiling Paint for just $148. Plus, get it delivered to your job site with free same-day delivery when you order by 2 p.m. Lowe's knows paint. Lowe's knows pros. Valid through 12/20. Delivery by 8 p.m. Subject to driver availability. Additional terms apply. See Lowe's.com/same-day delivery for details.
Oh, could this vintage store be any cuter?
Right? And the best part? They accept Discover.
Accept Discover? In a little place like this? I don't think so, Jennifer.
Oh, yeah, huh? Discover's accepted where I like to shop. Come on, baby, get with the times.
Right, so we shouldn't get the parachute pants?
These are making a comeback. I think.
Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views. 773-763-9278. All right, the texts are flowing in, so I appreciate the texts, and I'm trying to get to them during the breaks. So, all right. I've been speaking on one of the things that I believe the Democratic Party at the top needs to do, but then we have to do on a day-to-day level as it relates to voter involvement and voter participation. Let's go to my man, Brett. He's got some comments he wants to share with us this morning. Good morning, Brett. Welcome to the show.
And Henry, thanks for taking my call. How's it going?
Good, man. You're on the road right now?
Yeah, I'm in a monsoon down here. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you.
Tennessee.
Yeah, I can hear you fine, man.
Yeah.
You're doing good.
Yeah, it's raining pretty good. I had exhausting with these Trumpers, okay? I live in a household, okay, I got 4 kids, 3 of them which are Trumpers, and my wife is a Trumper. And I just don't put up with it. I just, either she goes up to her room or I go up to my room, which we got separate rooms. But it's exhausting for me, you know?
Well, so then I have to ask this question respectfully.
Sure.
How is it for her? It's exhausting for you, but how is it for her?
Same. It's the same. She's a one-issue voter she's a real hard Catholic, and she's on the abortion issue.
Okay.
And, you know, this Donnie saved babies, you know, with this whole abortion thing. And, to me, it's an issue that's never going to end. I don't care which way they want to put it or how they want to do it. It's just, it hasn't ended yet, and it's been going on since the beginning of time. So I don't, and there's no answer for it, on either side, really. But I'm just not where she's at.
You mean on the abortion issue?
Yes. Yeah, what's the answer? I mean, there really isn't one,
Well, I think the answer is the answer that I would give. Let's put it this way. And I don't say that it is the answer, but this is the answer in response that I always say to that is, if it ain't hurting you, then why would you want to block somebody else from something that they need? And I know that's. So I try to encompass and say, listen, that doesn't mean there's nobody saying that's a women's choice advocate. I'm not even going to say women's abortion. But we can speak to the real words, that if there's no one that's an abortion advocate or the right for a woman to have a choice to an abortion, there's no one that I know of that says, those of you who are not for it, but y'all still got to have one. And that's the miss that I think sometimes messaging, I'm just being honest, Brett, sometimes we need to say, I'm not trying to tell you to have an abortion. I'm saying get the hell out of the way so that if somebody needs to have one, for the safety of themselves, then they need to be able to do that. So get that
in a safe way,
and get that in a safe way, and get the hell out of the way with your faith, with your belief system, with your economies, and let people do that thing that will help them. Jesus,
sure.
And I don't preach, but I'm just saying the Lord that I was raised to know, the faith that I was raised in, and all the other ways I can try to dance around this, does not say that you have to do it. The mindset is get the hell out of the way so that if somebody needs that help, that they can get it in a prudent, safe way. That's all.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And what's their way? Their way is to take it away, and then what happens? Because it's not going to stop, right?
Right.
It didn't stop. It's never going to stop. So, I mean, what? There really isn't a good answer, I mean, it's not for me, but, But, yeah, that's exhausting. I mean, that's who I live with, and for me, it's just...
Well, Brett, I got to give you guys some encouraging words. Listen,
yes.
I know that is a challenge, but I will say this to you from one person to another, one man to another. I give you all the praise that you deserve, both you and your wife, because you guys love each other enough, you respect each other enough to have figured out how to maintain and keep it moving forward. And so I'm sending you all the love and the care I can send you, because it takes a real man and a real woman to be able to say, we ain't going to ever agree on this, but we're going to stay together because we love and respect each other. So I'm asking everybody to send Brett and his family some love, y'all.
We just celebrated our 40th wedding anniversary about a month ago.
Congratulations.
And I had one other thought, if I can, real quick.
Absolutely.
This jackwagon that's coming in to be the president in less than a month, and let's call him jackwagon because that's what he is. How long do you think it's going to be before Elon walks away from him? And how do we get Elon on our side to give us $250 billion or $1 million, right? $250 million.
Well, I think
for our campaign.
I don't know how long he's going to stay in with him. I don't know, and then what'll happen if he turns on him. But I'll be honest with you. I get where you're going with this to some extent. I would rather see if we're going to have, our version of it, or a version of Elon Musk, if you will, from a financial standpoint. I would rather see a consensus of wealthy folks on the left or in the center recognize that the direction that the country is turning is not right, and see them say, you know what, collectively, we're going to come together and create a consensus. We're going to create our broad-shouldered group of progressives so that we can help to fix the country. I'd rather see that than Elon come to our side, because that's traitor action. Like, okay, I didn't get what I wanted, so I'm going to flip over here to see who I can manipulate. I don't want that. You go kick sand. I don't need that. You know what I mean, Brett? I want somebody that's going to lock in with me and say, let's go get this done and let's stay together. It's going to be tough, but I got you. That's what I want.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, that would be a lot better.
Absolutely.
It was just a thought that I had.
I hear you, man. I hear you, man. Listen, Brett, be careful driving,
brother. I want
to
wish you and Henry and everybody there at CPT a nice and happy holiday with your families.
You got it. And the same back to you. And congratulations on 40 years of being together. That means something, man. It really does.
Thank you.
All right, Brett. Be safe out there.
Hey, have a nice day.
We will. You too. Okay. Bye-bye. Well, that'll take your breath away. Right on, Brett. You're going to get that from me for a long time, man. Y'all been together for 40 years and not saddling up the same way on this and where we are politically. So here's what I want to say to that. This is the other part of that. If they can do it and stay together and figure it out, then others can too. And I don't mean that disrespectful to anybody that might be struggling and challenged with this. I really don't. Please don't be upset with that statement. What I'm saying is you find a way. Vice President Harris has said this since the day or two after the election, and she's been saying it since then. We find a way. All right? That's what we do, guys. That's our responsibility to each other as just human beings. That's part of the humanity, conversation. We find a way. So, you dig in and you find a way. You don't dig in to the point where you're being stubborn, but you dig in and you find a way to figure it out and you move forward. And I'll be selfish in saying this. I hope that Mrs. Brett will be nice to my man Brett and go, okay, well, maybe I'll move a little bit over here, a little bit, just a tiny amount. I'm being selfish. I'm admittedly saying that to y'all. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. Our good friend Kurt Mullet from Hoosier Blue 63 will be with us in the 7 o'clock hour, but the number is 773-763-9278. Stay online. We will get to your calls. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
This is a WCPT moment in labor. In the 1830s in Lowell, Massachusetts, during the rise of the textile industry, factories were hiring large groups of women ranging in ages 18 to 35 to work at their mills. The workdays were 13 hours long and had poor working conditions. By 1834, the textile market was sluggish. In response, the workers' wages were reduced by 12.5%. One of the workers, Julia Wilson, tried to organize the women to get their wages back, only to be terminated abruptly. Wilson signaled the women to strike or turn out. Over 800 women marched and signed a petition saying we will not go back into the mills to work unless our wages are continued. Ultimately, the strike failed, but they learned from their mistake and successfully battled back a rent increase on their boarding houses 2 years later. By January 1845, about a dozen of the Lowell female textile workers came together to form the Lowell Female Labor Reform Association. This would become the first organized union of women workers in American history. This has been a WCPT Moment in Labor. We're working for your rights.
Struggling with high cloud hosting costs and endless management headaches with your Microsoft Azure or AWS environment? Contact AmericanEagle.com for an assessment and see how they can save you time and money.
This is AP News. I'm Rita Foley. Authorities are still trying to learn what drove a 15-year-old girl to open fire at a school in Madison, Wisconsin on Monday, killing 2 people and wounding 6 others before killing herself. The AP's Haya Penjwani.
Madison Police Chief Sean Barnes said they're looking into the shooter's online activity, but they still don't have her motives.
Identifying a motive is our top priority, but at this time it appears that the motive was a combination of factors.
Bullying is also being looked into.
We're talking to students to understand whether bullying was one of those multiple factors that I mentioned earlier.
Barnes also said no one was specifically targeted.
Everyone was targeted in this incident, and everyone was put in equal danger.
News conference audio is courtesy of WKOW. The girl also wounded 6 others in the shooting at Abundant Life Christian School, including 2 students who were in critical condition. I'm Haya Penjwani.
Luigi Mangione, the man accused of killing the CEO of United Healthcare, has now been charged in New York with murder as an act of terrorism. Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg.
Luigi Mangione, the defendant, is charged with 1 count of murder in the first degree and 2 counts of murder in the second degree, including 1 count of murder in the second degree as an act of terrorism.
Luigi Mangione is being held without bail in Pennsylvania, where he was arrested at a McDonald's earlier this month. Russia says the suspect in the killing of a top general in Moscow is an Uzbek citizen recruited by Ukraine. It says it has detained him. The military general was killed Tuesday by a bomb hidden in a scooter outside his apartment building in Moscow. This is AP News. There's a new study focusing on some buildings in Florida that could be sinking.
Almost 3 dozen high-rise condos and luxury hotels along the beach in South Florida are sinking or settling in unexpected ways, in some cases because of nearby construction. That's according to a new study by scientists at the University of Miami. It's not uncommon for buildings to sink a little during and soon after construction, but some of the changes took place several years after construction. Limestone under the beaches is interspersed with layers of sand, which can shift under the weight of high-rises and as a result of vibrations from foundation construction. A separate study earlier this year showed buildings in major cities along the Atlantic coast were also sinking, and by more than the rate of seawater rise. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
And I'm Rita Foley, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few scattered snow showers early today, otherwise cloudy skies with temperatures holding rather steady. Winds out of the northwest around 5 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 20. Tonight, mostly cloudy, a low near 27. By Thursday, a slight chance for snow here late. Cloudy skies, a high of 35 degrees. Friday, a chance for snow, cloudy, and a high around 34. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 35.
Are you paying too much for term life insurance? A man age 50 non-tobacco user can obtain $500,000 of coverage for as little as $110 per month. Level rate for 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rate for 20 years. If you're a smoker, there are great rates available for you as well. Call Term Busters for a quote. 1-800-908-7636. You're probably paying more than you should. Call 1-800-908-7636. Remember, call Term Busters. 1-800-908-7636. Sample rate for preferred non-tobacco rate class. Exam required to qualify.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820 AM, where facts matter. Take it away, Richard.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Make your way over to heartlandsignal.com so you can catch all of our great articles and posts that are there. And there's a really good piece that you guys want to check out about ABC caving, which they didn't have to do. Based on all the evidence that I've looked at, information I've looked at, they would have won. But they did. And unfortunately, fearless media is not good for the country. and hopefully these other two entities that are being sued. I mean, I think CBS and then the Des Moines Register, or a Des Moines paper. You know, gosh, that's a whole show. But I'm gonna stay on the rails right now. But make your way over to Heartland Signal and check out some of our posts and articles that are there. And of course, later today, Joan Esposito will be taking your calls, talking to University of Chicago political science professor William Howell, Michael McElroy, political reporter at the Courier's Cardinal and Pine newsroom, and Duke history professor Nancy McLean, author of Democracy in Chains, a deep history of the radical right's stealth plan for America. Live, local, and progressive weekdays 2 to 5 p.m. Central on WCPT 820 and Heartland Signal. Tonight, 5 to 7, guess who? Patty Vasquez will be talking to Suni Ford of Belong, Fox Valley, a non-profit organization dedicated to creating an inclusive space for the LGBTQ community in the Fox Valley area of Aurora, Batavia, Elgin, Geneva, and St. Charles. Driving it home with none other than Patty Vasquez, weekdays 5 to 7 p.m. Central on WCPT 820. And a reminder, as always, make your way over to our heartlandsignal.com for Choose Views full episodes and Choose Views featured interviews. That's me. Where you can get all of our podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Amazon, and TuneIn. Just search for Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get the links by visiting heartlandsignal.com/choose-views. Check us out over there, guys. Lots of good stuff. And guess what? We're still giving away tickets. Let me clear my throat. Fry the Coop is the destination for hot chicken in Chicagoland, giving a southern original taste here in the Midwest, whether you like it hot or with no heat, featuring chicken sandwiches, tenders, chicken and waffles, and now nuggets, all delivering happiness to each crunchy bite. Probably not using seed oils, rather than frying all of their menu in 100% beef tallow. Stop by the Coop today at one of the many locations here in the Chicagoland area: Oak Lawn, Chicago, Elmhurst, Darien, Prospect Heights, Tinley Park, Bolingbrook. You can have no heat, mild, medium, hot, or crazy insanity. It's probably going to burn the roof of your mouth. And to celebrate the holidays, Fry the Coop is giving away gift cards through WCPT. They're giving them to us to give to you. That's a little gift to you. Thank you for being part of our programming. So there's a contest, and the number today is going to be number 2, second caller, looking for the gift card. Guess what? Henry might surprise you. Contests running on WCPT are open to listeners 18 or older and residents of the greater Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana area. 1 entry per person, 1 winner per household, void where prohibited by law. Listeners may only win or qualify to win once every 30 days. Don't be trying to get there every 15 days. Complete rules are available on our website at WCPT.com by clicking the contest tab. So if you call in asking for the $25 gift card, Henry's going to get that to the second caller for those gift cards. There you go. All right. Shifting gears, folks. We have our good friend, our Wednesday partner, our road dog, Kurt Mullet from Hoosier Blues 63, joining us today. Good morning, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Richard. How are you this morning?
I'm good. I've got that scratchy voice thing going, but hey, I've got my iced coffee and my cranberry juice, and we're making it through, brother. We're making it through.
You're not a coffee dude, man?
No,
you're not a coffee guy?
No. I've got my iced coffee. That I got 2 of them.
Iced coffee. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I got my iced coffee and my cranberry juice, and I'm hitting them both this morning to soothe the vocal cords. But other than that, I'm doing great.
Okay.
I'm talking to you. I got a big smile on my face, and just looking forward to chopping it up with you this morning. How you doing, man? What's going on in your world?
Oh, all kinds of crazy things, man. It's getting busy around here. I'm getting involved in a lot of things and reaching out to a lot of people in my community, and just. There's a lot of things I've got plans. A lot of things that moving forward, I'm bound and determined to get accomplished and to do. And sitting here thinking, I've told you this before, how you have a tendency to throw a wrench in my thinking when I'm sitting here getting ready to come on and talk to you, and then something comes up like the phone call from Brett, and it just throws my mind in a completely different direction, and I just can't relate to his situation, and I just have the I don't know. I don't know how he deals with that and how he can cope with that.
Well, I give him the amount of, a huge amount of respect for it, because he recognizes. I don't want to speak for him, but he kind of said this. He recognizes the importance of, they've been together for 40 years. They just had their 40-year anniversary, so that means a heck of a lot more. But it is like you go, wow, that exists. And I think sometimes we sort of, maybe leapfrog over that person. That's why I keep saying, all the time, there are people right in our immediate, crew, and in this case, his wife, that they don't side up. They get on the horse differently on this one. And so there's and
one issue voters are the absolute toughest to sway or to try to talk to, because they are laser focused on one issue and one issue only. Yeah. So trying to educate them and to sway them is a tough thing. But Brett, if you do some research about Tennessee, some of the things is that where he's from, or is it he's just driving through Tennessee?
Yeah, he's a Teamster driver, and he's from Illinois.
Okay.
But he's all over the place. I think he's been in Texas this week, and he's in Tennessee now. So he's all over the place. So, kudos to him for that as well.
Right. Yeah, and thank you for that. That's a tough job. So it's a lonely job.
Yeah.
It gives him a lot of time to think. So, but hey, kudos to you. Everybody has a different approach on their relationships and what this division has caused. And I'm lucky to have a wife who believes the same things that I do and believes in the same things that I do. And it's funny because she probably has a deeper belief in them than I do, but she is much less vocal, let's say, than I am. I mean, she's an HR director, so she deals with this kind of stuff all the time as far as people and their opinions on subjects and how they view people. And she has always been very transparent when it comes to who's sitting in front of her and who she's talking. That's a human being.
Right.
And that's where it stops with her. And it doesn't matter if they have 2 letters or 3 letters after their name, or if they're just somebody who's living paycheck to paycheck. She treats them all the same. And I've always admired her for that, And she's going through a lot of things right now at work with the year end and the startup of the new year and everything. And I woke up last night about 1:30 and she was awake. And I'm sure you have this kind of relationship, and I'm sure a lot of people do. We laid there last night in bed for over an hour just talking,
Yeah.
Many subjects, just talking about many different things. And I told her, I said, I want to talk you to sleep. Not bore you to death, but I want to help you get to sleep. And I mean, that's what I think we have to, or that's the approach I think we have to take with people that seem to be out of our reach and seem to be in a place where, we don't understand how they can be there. We have to talk to them. We have to communicate with them. We have to not only try to understand where they're coming from, even if we don't believe what they believe, but we also have to try to help them understand where we on the left as liberals are coming from. And the abortion issue, I have a whole list of things that I present to people when they throw the baby killing and the abortion thing in my face. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So to people like Brett, I wish you all the luck, and I respect and admire you, but don't give up.
Absolutely.
But you got to talk to her. You've got to educate yourself. you've got to make her aware that her one issue stance is costing the lives of many women in this country and affecting so many people in this country. And
yeah, I mean, it's a tough. Here's the thing, and as much as I say, kudos to Brett in that space and having that person that is, the single issue voter being your spouse. At the same time, I say that I also, and I kind of said it toward the end of the, or after the call with him, the selfish side of me says, and I understand where she stands. At the same time, I look at it and say, there's no one telling you that you have to be the one to have an abortion. And so
right.
I think that we have to back away sometimes and let people understand that's not going to directly impact you. But by you voting in the direction that you're directly impacting somebody else. And I think that sometimes gets that's the miss on the conversation around abortion, is that you voting against it as a single issue voter. And there's thousands of people across the country, if not millions, that's their thing. You saying no to that means somebody else is going to be harmed, not you. And your spirituality should not be so arrogant. And I'm saying this to anybody in that space, not Brett's wife, but anybody. Your spirituality should not be so arrogant as to say, I'm going to do something to prevent somebody else from receiving the care that they need. And a lot of people don't want to have that conversation that way. So it's a tough one.
No, they don't. And when people come from the religious angle on the single issue voters, I was brought up in the Catholic Church, and I no longer practice because as I don't know if I told you this before, but when I was about 14 or 15, I got kicked out of CCD classes because my questions were, where are you coming from? Well, I mean,
I'm sorry, man. Keep going.
No, because one day I asked, I said, okay, so if there was a great flood that destroyed the earth and the only people left were Noah and his family, how did people were all children of incest, right? I mean, that's where my thought was coming from, and I didn't mean it in a mean way. I meant it in a help me out with this. How can you say
that's
this,
the problem? That's the problem with the dogma of religion of any faith is that if you don't just swallow it down, then you get punished for having a question. And think about what political party seems to be in that space. If the followers don't just follow, then they get ostracized. And a good example would be Liz Cheney. She was like, wait a minute, I'm down with some of this stuff over here, but this I'm not. The minute she did that, she got ostracized by the party. And so in the context of religion and what you're saying about, I just had to laugh about getting kicked out of CCD class. I wasn't raised Catholic. I was raised in a community where I would say it was probably 45-50% Catholic, and the rest was all the other faiths. Probably a mix of Baptist, Protestant, a little bit of Jewish. All kind of mixed in. And so the learning that came from that is that, okay, everybody does stupid stuff. Everybody's smart. Everybody's trying to make it. Everybody's trying to love each other. There's some goofy people. It proved to me that everybody has all of that stuff, irrespective of the religion. And so that the reason I chuckled is I had an incident, which I don't need to repeat now, in typing class where someone told me that I was going to go to hell because I was Baptist, and that I wasn't, because I wasn't Catholic, I was going to go to hell. And I always remember, like, okay, so then what is it that would cause you to go to hell because of you just saying that to me? And so the person was stumped. I mean, it was in 9th grade, and she said this to me, and I was like, typing class was kind of open conversation. We could do whatever we as long as we got our work done, we could talk openly. And the conversation about religion came up, and someone said that, and I said, well, I go to this church, and she said, well, you're Baptist, you're not Catholic, you're going to go to hell for that. And I said, well, why are you not going to go to hell for saying that to me? And it was so quiet in the class you could hear a pin drop. But the point is, it wasn't about Catholicism. It was about how religion is one of the first spaces that tries to ostracize people if you don't just swallow it down. And here we are talking about abortion or women's rights. And that's a situation that, Brett's not on an island in that space. There's millions of families that have that same challenge. The question here's the real question, though. And I want to say this, and then, you and I are going to have a good message for everybody before we wrap up. I do want to say this in the context of what I said about talking about what just happened in terms of this election. I know that over the next 2 weeks, these next 2 weeks of holidays, there's going to be lots of engagement with family, probably more so than Thanksgiving because of the fact that it's Christmas and New Year's. And so my question to you, Kurt, is what is your recommendation to folks who are going to have those conversations? They're going to find out a couple things. They're either going to find out somebody voted, that they voted for Vice President Harris and they're distraught, or they're going to find out that they voted for Trump, or the third is they're going to find out that people didn't vote at all. And so my question to you, and it's a big question, but I know you've got a concise answer for it, is what are you suggesting? And I know you've posted some wonderful stuff recently on this space. How do you recommend people deal with that over these next couple of weeks?
Well, it's a tough situation because not everybody in this world is a Richard or a Kurt. Okay, many people struggle with or don't have the ability to speak openly or to have conversations because that's just not who they are. And people need to understand it's not about throwing a bunch of facts out and everything like that, even though if you have those, please use them, because the one thing you will find is that most Republicans, especially MAGA, they are uneducated about the facts. They have no idea about it. If you ask them what woke means, they have no clue. If you ask them what CRT means, they have no clue. If you ask them what DEI means, they have no clue. Yet they throw those comments around all the time. But I think communication is vital in doing this. I spent the last couple of days in my hometown here. I've shared with you I'm looking to become the Democratic chair of the county party, or the Wabash County Democratic chair. So I've been reaching out to people across the aisle, and I think that's key. I think that's what we need to do, because my hometown, we struggle with Democrats now. When people go out in my hometown and you let it be known that you're a Democrat, man, it's like razors are thrown at you. It's a double word now because of abortion, and it's a struggle that all of us have. But we need to communicate and reach out to people, because we need to let them know that that's not what we are about. Okay, there are many things that the Democratic Party stands for and that progressive liberals stand for that they have no idea. So I think it's important. I had a conversation with somebody yesterday who is a staunch MAGA and just attacks me every time that I post something on Facebook. And I told him, I said, hey, I made a post about, the vaccines and what's going to happen, because my grandfather and my father-in-law both were struck by polio as young men. And I know we're running out of time, but my grandfather had a physical problem with walking his whole life, and he used to call it a gimp in my step, is what he said. And he dealt with it and was successful. My father-in-law, who at the time I did not know was going to be my father-in-law in the future, had lost his ability in one arm. And I was a big tennis player in high school in my early 20s, and so I used to play tennis against him. He would come down, our tennis courts, our community tennis courts here used to be packed on the weekends with people. I mean, tennis was a big thing in my community. I used to play tennis against him, and he was a one-armed tennis player, if you've ever seen that. And he was good. He was a 50-year-old man out there kicking the butts of 20-year-olds. And I didn't know I was going to marry his daughter 30 years down the road, So but anyway, this guy didn't attack it. He said, hey, I agree with vaccines. And I read his post and I was like, wow, this isn't you, But I said, hey, thanks for the comment. I appreciate you voicing this, and I'm glad that you, can have some empathy here with this situation.
Right.
I said, I'd love to sit down and have a conversation with you over some coffee someday. And, I haven't had that response to him. But anyway, I got off the subject. But I think it's important just to communicate to people, try to educate yourself on things and issues, just like Brett. Your wife's against abortion, and I understand that. But what she's actually saying is she's okay with 13-year-old girls to be raped and become a mommy, because that's the direction that they're taking this, okay?
Yeah. And that's the hard that's the hard part of the conversation. And because that's a lot of times, and again, when it's not singling out the issue, not the person, but that's ultimately what happens when you have a very hyper issue that people say I'm unbending or unyielding on this, and that's their right. But at the same time, it's taking away someone else's ability to live in that world that we say that, those of faith say that we've been blessed to have. So it's a delicate situation, but it takes strong-willed people to deal with it. And I'm a big proponent of that, and we have to be willing to have those conversations as we get into the meat of the holiday season. And as Kurt and I are wrapping up, given that we're together on Wednesdays, and the next 2 Wednesdays are Christmas and New Year's, we're going to have a kind of a rebroadcast and best of Choose Views. So Kurt and I won't be yelling in you guys' ears for a couple of weeks. But that being said, what's your send-off to everybody? What's your good message to everybody over these next 2 weeks?
Well, I hope everybody has a safe and good holiday season. I mean, do what you know is best for you. Okay, if you need to isolate yourself more and not be around as many people as you traditionally have in the past, do that. My wife and I are doing exactly that. Our daughter's coming into town. There's a few people we're going to be around, but we're going to enjoy each other's company. We're that's what our holiday's about. It's about loving those that are around you and just having a care for everyone. But stay positive. Understand that things are about to change in our country. That doesn't mean we have to change ourselves as far as what we believe in and our core of who we are. That I'm certainly not going to do that. If anything, it has made me stronger, and it has made me understand I need to do more, and that's what I'm doing. And I just urge people, regardless of what it is, if it's just the minor things, just do them. Be involved.
Yeah. Don't change.
Educate yourself. Try to talk to people. Don't change. Don't go to the middle.
No.
Well, when you brought that up the other day, I was like, where is this? And then I understood what you were doing, so I calmed down.
Well, there were a couple people. Actually, the funny thing about that, man, is there's a couple people that said that text me and said, "What are you?" And then they realized, "Oh, wait a minute, I see what you were doing," and that was by design. But I want to come back to something Kurt said as we wrap up. Listen, guys, there's some changes that are coming. Changes are coming, and it's not going to be pleasant in a lot of different ways. But the thing that can't change, to make change, to deal with the change, is that you as an individual cannot change your principles. You cannot change what you believe in. And even though this next 2 weeks, and I know I keep coming back to this, people are going to be immersed in these conversations. If you need to call a timeout to get away from it, then what Kurt said is spot on. Maybe you need to call a timeout. However, that doesn't mean you change. It means you take care of yourself. And self-care right now, these next 2 weeks, is going to be hugely important. And get welled up for the upcoming new year. But make sure you're taking care of yourself. At the same time, don't go changing to try to please them. Not Billy Joel, don't be upset. But that if the parts of those lyrics are apropos, then that I think it right now is that time. Don't change, get better. Believe in what you believe in, get stronger, and try to bring somebody along with you, if anything. I mean, that's going to be my consistent message over these next few shows. So, listen, my man, I know we're going to talk.
That's my goal. That's my goal. So, be who you are.
Be who you are.
Be proud.
Be proud. Hey, man.
Be proud.
I know we're going to talk offline over the next few days. But, obviously, given that this is the last show that we're going to have this year, it's been a joy to be hanging with you these last few months. I'm really glad that we connected, and hopefully the folks out there think we're doing some good. and I appreciate you being a part of the team.
Well, my appreciation is tenfold to you, but you're the one that reached out to me and brought me into your world. And for that, I will forever be grateful. I mean, you've embraced me in a way that, very few have.
I appreciate that. I really do. All right, guys. Y'all say.
Don't forget, I've got a couple killer albums for you.
I know. We got to talk.
I keep digging them up, and I'm like, Richard, I bet he loves this.
Absolutely. All right, Kurt Mullet.
Who's piling up, man?
Who's your Blue 63? Kurt Mullet. Check him out over the holidays. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thanks, brother. Take care of yourself.
You too, man.
Christmas,
Merry
everybody.
Christmas, everybody. All right, guys. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will be talking with one of the top immigration attorneys in America, Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch, will be with us as we get into our last half hour of the show. 773-763-9278. We'll be right back.
This is a WCPT Veteran Minute. In the midst of World War II, a group of Native American soldiers known as the Code Talkers became silent heroes. The U.S. military faced challenge of secure communications on the battlefield, and these men, primarily from the Navajo tribe, were enlisted to develop an unbreakable code. Using their native language, which had no written alphabet, they transmitted vital messages that were indecipherable to enemy forces. The code proved to be an essential asset, particularly in the Pacific Theater, where it helped the Allies win crucial battles. The Code Talkers' courage and ingenuity saved countless lives and turned the tide of the war. Yet, their contributions remained largely unknown until decades later. The legacy of the Code Talkers stands as a testament to the strength, resilience, and invaluable service of Native Americans during one of America's most devastating conflicts. This has been a WCPT Veteran Minute.
Are you having trouble hearing? Hearing loss can devastate the quality of your life. Now, there's an affordable fix for you or your loved one. Rated in the best hearing aids of 2024 by USA Today, Audion Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, just $189.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aids.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed.
Join over 500,000 happy customers by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
Stephanie Miller here. Picture this. You've got a bad stomach. Your cousin has a remedy. Your mom has advice. And of course, Dr. Google points you in several directions, but your stomach is still unresolved and you feel like crap. Need the right answers? Call the Tummy Whisperer. We all know our immune system protects our health. That's because 80% of your immune system is in your digestive tract. Poor digestion means poor health, period. What does poor digestion look like? Gas, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, heartburn, morning fatigue, cravings, and more. Improving your digestion is your first step to wellness, both physical and mental. Can't wait to feel better? Call Renee Barish at Digestive Health Solutions for a free 15-minute consultation at 847-207-2034. Mention this ad and get $75 off your digestive health program. Call Renee now at 847-207-2034, or you can find her at thetummywhisperer.com, 847-207-2034, or tummywhisperer.com.
You are listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few scattered snow showers early today, otherwise cloudy skies with temperatures holding rather steady. Winds out of the northwest around 5 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 20. Tonight, mostly cloudy, a low near 27. By Thursday, a slight chance for snow here late. Cloudy skies, a high of 35 degrees. Friday, a chance for snow, cloudy, and a high around 34. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 34.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. A topic that we don't talk a lot about in specifics is the topic of immigration. I talk about it in a general sense, oftentimes about how it will impact our economy and how it will be a, what's the word I want to use? Logistically a nightmare. And I also spoke last week about Tom Homan coming into the Chicagoland area and trash-talking Mayor Johnson and trash-talking Governor Pritzker in that space when he should be talking to Greg Abbott about shipping human beings to another state and should be talking to Ron DeSantis about the same thing. So I have some observational opinions, but I'm not an expert in the space. I just look at some of the common sense sides of it. We're fortunate this morning to actually have someone that's an expert in this space as one of our guests, and that would be Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch, an immigration attorney. And we are going to ask her to kind of school us a little bit on immigration and this upcoming Trump administration. Kate, good morning and welcome to Choose Views.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on today.
Absolutely. I mean, the intro I gave you was by design because I have taken the position that it'll be a logistical nightmare. We know the economics behind it, but at the same time, you can't have people like, as you probably saw, Tom Homan, the first city that he decided to go and launch his vitriol in was Chicago. He came to the city last week and said, the Mayor Johnson and Governor Pritzker, he used a descriptive that I don't have to repeat here, but he's talking about get the hell out of the way or I'm going to prosecute you. That's the kind of vitriol that we don't need. But I know our listeners and viewers want to get maybe a little bit more expert observation from someone like you in terms of what employers have got to prepare themselves for and what communities have to prepare themselves for.
Yeah, sure. It's a lot coming and a lot's going to happen really fast. The thing that, happened in the first administration is that there was, 4 years they were trying a bunch of different things, seeing what stood up in the courts and what, got blocked. And now they've got experience and they've got a plan and they're going to roll a lot of things out quickly. The other difference is that in the first Trump administration, there was a lot of focus on the border, closing down, asylum protections for people. And now, because Biden frankly hasn't rolled back all that much of what Trump did along the border remains pretty closed to asylum seekers. Therefore, the real focus of the Trump 2.0 is going to be interior enforcement and immigration. So in the ways that we saw big splashy action, separation of families, et cetera, on the border, we're going to start to see that inside the United States. And some of the first cities that will be targeted by the federal government are going to be cities that are seen as, some type of sanctuary city. Los Angeles, for example, Chicago, cities like that, because these are cities where the Immigration and Customs Enforcement can't obtain these agreements that they want with local law enforcement agencies. So they start to go in there and conduct more activity, which looks like, picking up people who have outstanding orders, picking up people who are within the criminal justice system, but also just conducting worksite raids, just going to the supermarket where there's a lot of immigrants who shop there and stopping people, asking them for their papers. And this is what we're going to start to see, I think, very quickly.
So I have a couple of questions. First of all, thank you for that great quick opening in this space. And this is a conversation that I'll just ask you now. I hope that you're willing to come back and talk about this more. Your voice is an incredibly needed voice on this topic. So I'm looking forward to future conversations with you as much as this pre-conversation about what's going to happen. All right. So many times the conversation is southern border, southern border, southern border. Well, we have a northern border as well. And we have something that I don't think gets talked about enough. And so as I'm presenting this to you, I'm trying to do it in a concise manner. This conversation about people who are citizens or going back to the conversation around birthright citizenship, how will this be impacted with in the bigger scheme of immigration, deporting people and birthright citizenship? What's the nexus there?
So birthright citizenship is part of our Constitution. It's the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. It says anyone born on U.S. soil is a U.S. citizen. And it's also been reviewed by the Supreme Court in the late 1800s. So it's a really firmly entrenched, established part of our laws in this country. So that's not something that a president or the executive branch of the government can just up and change. It would require a constitutional change, which, although there's Republican control of Congress, they don't have enough of a majority to, edit birthright citizenship. However, that doesn't mean we're not going to see attempts by the Trump administration to make waves in the area. So probably what it will look like is we'll start to see children born to undocumented parents, however they get that information, might have difficulty obtaining their documents. Could be, in a state like Texas where I am, where the state is very cooperative. They might start to deny birth certificates, or people might have difficulty obtaining their U.S. passport from the Department of State. But then, of course, those people who are experiencing these delays would be able to bring a lawsuit and would ultimately prevail. So I think at the end of the day, I feel confident that birthright citizenship is not on the chopping block. However, that doesn't mean that we're not going to see a bunch of shenanigans and nonsense that impact people's lives.
So in that space, there's been this sort of, all right, well, if they're going to try to go after birthright citizenship, it sounds then more like it's been talk, it's been fluff, it's been ways to get people riled up than there to be, and the shameful part of it is the people that are talking this quote, I'll say trash, don't really understand how the Constitution is going to actually step in or already got a big footprint in this space. Are you seeing that too, or am I off the rails on that one?
No, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of bluster, of course. We know that about this person and the people who support him. The thing that I think, though, is different this go around is how much control they have of the three branches of government. Congress, the courts, there's been a lot of federal judge placements, of course, the lineup of the Supreme Court means that a lot of things that wouldn't have gotten through or wouldn't have been acceptable before, now are. So there's a lot of bluster, like things like birthright citizenship are not ultimately going to be taken away, in my opinion. But also there is a lot of stuff being threatened that will probably actually occur and survive court challenge. So I think, understanding how these things are going to play out is a critical piece of digesting all of these threats that are coming our way. So birthright citizenship is one of the few threats that I think is safe, but there's a lot of other things that the administration has said they're going to do that they might get away with and is really concerning and will really impact this country's economy in a negative way.
So we've heard people talk about that, your last piece, and I was making notes. People have heard me say this before, and that is I try not to make notes. I try to listen, but you're saying so many things that I need to make notes of. All right. How, in your observation and your experience, will it be, how will it really impact the economy? And you're in Texas, so you have a unique bird's eye view of certain things. So talk us through that a little bit.
Well, there's the big picture of immigration. We need immigrant labor in all levels of the skill spectrum. So you often hear people talk about, the agriculture sector really needs laborers and U.S. workers won't take those jobs. Yes, that's true. And we also need workers in the mid-skill level and the innovators, the engineers, the IT people. We need immigrants everywhere. And our baby boomers are aging, and we need people to care for them. And we need actually expanded immigration options and more ways for people to come here and work. So number one, if we have a Congress and administration that's focused on only the enforcement part of immigration, we're going to continue restricting ways for people to come here and work, which chokes off our economy, number one. Number two, there is a major focus this go around on apprehending, detaining, deporting the undocumented population and people with temporary status in the United States, like DACA, people, dreamers, people with temporary protected status, people who are on parole. So that group of people plus the undocumented makes up 20% of the workforce in this country if you take all of the immigrants together. So if we conduct, we spend massive resources, there's a $100 billion budget in DHS, and we focus those resources on going out and arresting people who have jobs, who are supporting the economy, whose kids are in school, that creates this ripple effect in those communities where they work, in the companies where they work, et cetera. And so it's like this twofold sort of attack on our economy, all in the name of, immigrants are bad and scary, which isn't actually true, but it's a really strong message politically. It's played super well. It's ultimately gotten Trump elected. And so here we are. If he takes these actions, we're all going to suffer.
Okay, so I have a couple. This is why we're going to have you back, because this is a whole show. All right, so this is a Richard question. I'm African American, male, and a lot of folks that I've talked to in the black community have said, I'm not worried about this because, let's just be honest, from a purely history standpoint, we've been here for a long, long time. We have generations of black folks, post-enslavement and pre-enslavement, that have been here for a long time. So I can understand when a black person says, I'm not worried about that in terms of personal, somebody's going to come knocking on my door and snatch me from my house or from my place of work because of my, I've been here. We've been here. I have this question that's just nagging at me. What about people that, because when we talk about the border, people always say, Kate, the focus is the southern border and not even the northern border. But more importantly, what about people that have come here from European countries? How is that going to play out? Because as I see it, I don't look at the southern or the northern border or the southern border specifically and go, that's the problem. We have other we have other folks that are here in the United States from other parts of the world that are not brown-skinned people.
It is such a big topic, and I think ultimately why we should all care is that what this comes down to is racism and xenophobia. That's
Come on,
why
Kate.
this message is playing.
Come on, Kate. Preach, lady. Preach.
So I think what we're going to see in these apprehensions and these detentions, of course, is the utilization of racial profiling. How else is a police officer going to suspect someone of illegal entry if they don't actually watch them walking across the border, other than using racial profiling? And none of us should accept policing through racial profiling. So therefore, all of us should care. I mean, economic questions aside, this is just not the way to run a country. And ultimately, at the end of the day, what's underneath all of this? Why is there resistance to immigration, to people who are different than us being in our country? It's because we're afraid of people who look and sound different. It's a feature of humanity. And it's also a futile effort for people who want to resist change in our demography. It is futile. So we're just going to keep having this battle. And I think all of us, of course, it's incumbent upon all of us to resist anything that looks and sounds and feels like racism, which this is.
Wow. That's a clip that we're going to play on our broadcast a number of times, because this is coming not from me, but from someone that's an expert in the field of immigration. I cannot tell you how powerful what you just said is. I know you know it, but what you just said is extraordinarily eye-opening, powerful, that a lot of people don't want to have the conversation about. They just don't, Kate. And I know you know this, so I don't want to sound like I'm preaching to you, so I apologize for that. But I think that, you know, when we talk about this whole big behemoth of immigration, that's left out. It's literally left out of the conversation. What about the people who are here from countries that aren't necessarily brown-skinned countries, if you will? And it's what you just said. So thank you for being, and Henry, who was our board engineer, looked at me as I was asking you this question, and your pause before you answered it was earth-shattering because you spoke the truth that a lot of people don't want to hear. So I appreciate you having the courage to say that. It's not an easy thing to deal with, but that I appreciate you having the experience also and the courage to speak to that, Kate. So kudos to you for that from little old me. But you know, I give a kudos where they're due, and I know that took courage to say it that way. Let's talk about one other part of this, and it's as it relates to another little elephant in the room. What could the Biden-Harris administration have done differently and or better in this period of time? I mean, listen, it's an elephant in the room, and I'm not afraid to go, hey, we know that there's some conversations about what didn't happen, what could have happened, and so forth. Your observation, just objectively as a professional, what do you see? And then how do we leverage that to go forward?
I think the first thing is the messaging. There was just sort of a void of communication on this side of the conversation, why we need immigration, why immigration is good, why are people saying that immigration is bad, what's underneath all of that. There were very few people within the government having that conversation. They were just glad when they didn't have to talk about immigration. You know, that's sort of how they ran it in their administration. Meanwhile, the other side is just this loud drumbeat, anti-immigration, drug trafficking, human trafficking, immigration equals danger. And nobody was countering that conversation on a regular basis. So it created this belief. It allowed it to grow within our country. And then also the policy rollouts were very slow. So, I mean, on the one hand, I understand the Biden administration had its back up against the wall, and everything they did try to roll out got, blocked in the federal courts. I mean, it wasn't as if they could have done a whole lot, with what they had in front of them. However, the Biden administration didn't do a lot early on in his presidency, so there were some, few and minor actions later that, for example, there's this, Keeping Families Together parole program that would have allowed spouses of U.S. citizens to get their green cards without going through this, ridiculous 6-year process that they have to go through. And Biden, passed it, announced it in August of 2024. Mm-hmm. Of course, it gets blocked in the court, and there's no time to even appeal the decision. So it's not, too slow, not enough, but ultimately just not even really talking about it enough, is my opinion.
My good friend Eric Grant, who hosts another show on this station, talks about, from a messaging standpoint, and I, to a great extent, agree with this. What you're doing, if people don't know about it, then they don't think you're doing anything. And so going back to your first part of your answer, my wish is that they had said exactly what you said, which is, look, these are the things we're up against, y'all. These are the things that they didn't do. Here's the things that are problematic. Here's what we're fighting for in this space. And then also, really highlight the fact that here's why immigration is beneficial to our country. And y'all need to know this. And I would agree with you wholeheartedly, Kate, that's one that I just kept saying all along. They need to talk about it. They need to talk about it. They need to talk about it. Even if it's ugly, talk about it so people know we got our thumb on this one. We're trying to fix it. And here's what we're up against. And what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there just wasn't a champion. There wasn't a powerful champion for immigrants. There hasn't been for years.
Yeah.
In our country.
That's unfortunate. So now that I've taken up your morning and you've been so wonderful to school us, and I told everybody you were going to school us this morning, and you have so wonderfully done that. I really appreciate you coming on the show, and I always tell everybody I'm not a gotcha question person, but the question that I did ask you, you definitely put some light on it. And what's next for you? What's going to be your 2025? I've been asking everybody this. How are you, getting ready for 2025 and the next, 2 to 4 years?
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty wild ride for me. I'm an immigration lawyer in Texas, and I work with families. So my preparations right now are helping families understand what their emergency plan is going to be. You know, if they're undocumented, who's going to be the person that can pick up the kids if mom or dad get arrested, and does that person have the authorizations that they need? Do we have the documents in order that we need? So it's safety planning right now. Then when the raids and the apprehensions start, we'll be responding to that, trying to keep people in this country, keep people with their families, you know, and supporting immigrants through what is to come.
Yeah. Kate, you got our support. We will always be here for you as a source to talk about what you're doing. We want to have you back as you're in the throes of dealing with this so that you can share the work, the successes that you're having and the challenges. But we will be here for you as an ally in the, tip of the spear work that you're going to be doing. And we thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thanks for this conversation. I'd love to come back.
Absolutely. Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch, immigration attorney in Texas, y'all. So send her some love, send her some holiday love, and let her know that we got her back. Thanks for being with us this morning, and happy holidays, Kate.
You too. Thanks.
All right. Bye now. Wow. Talk about someone that's right up in there. I mean, she's elbows deep. She said what she's going to be doing in 2025. So when you think about how challenging your life might be, think about the work that she's going to be taking on, and send Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch some love. Google her and find out how you can maybe get involved, how you can help her. That's what we do as progressives. So don't sleep on that. Her name's going to come up again. We're going to do this very quickly. Mildred, you got 30 seconds because we've got to wrap up the show. Go for it.
Okay, well, thank you. I was just wondering, I was enjoying her conversation too. So your guest.
Yes, she was great.
Yes, she was. I just want to add that talking about improvement of the Democratic Party, let's not forget the donation part. I mean, I don't mind donating. I do. And they can be mean if they want to me. I don't care. But I'm still going to donate cash. But some people don't feel that way. And I talk with some, and they say they feel like they're harassing them for donations. And people need to be cognizant of the fact that a lot of folks are struggling right now with property taxes, high taxes. They don't even know how they're going to live. You know what I mean?
I do.
So if they can figure out a way to be more sensitive when requesting donations and stop sending people through their browser 50 emails a day asking the same question. If you donated, they still will send you those emails.
Right.
I donate, and I got them. I got mad myself. I thought about it. They may be doing it to other folks.
Yeah, well, that's definitely something where there's some sensitivity that's going to be required, and I've heard that comment before. Mildred, thank you, dear. I'm going to keep it moving because we got to get to the end of the show. But DNC donations, thank you so much, Mildred, for your comments this morning. Last call, very quickly, Roosevelt. You literally got 30 seconds. Congratulations, you are the Fry the Coop winner this morning. So congratulations to you, my man.
Winner, winner, chicken
dinner. That's right. All right, man. Listen, I know you're going to give us a call tomorrow. We got to wrap up the show, but I just wanted to get your name out there today. You are the winner. Thanks, Roosevelt, and we'll talk with you tomorrow.
Have a great week. Have a great day.
You too. All right, man. Listen, guys, it's been great having, we had two great guests on, of course, our good man, Kurt Mullet from Hoosier Blue 63. Henry's going to get your information, Roosevelt. So, and also, as we come to this quick end, Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch, immigration attorney in Texas. Google her name. Find out what you can do to help her, to be a support system for her, because she is out there on the front lines on an issue that's a big, big issue, and it's going to be a big one for us all, optically and administratively. So, all right, guys, we're wrapping up the show. As always, what do we say? Take a deep breath, make your life count, and we will see you tomorrow.
This is an important announcement for anyone who wants health insurance, even if you missed the deadline. Right now, you can get the health insurance you and your family need from top insurance providers, even if you have pre-existing conditions or no insurance at all. The Plus Benefits Health Insurance toll-free number has been extended to help anyone who wants health insurance coverage now, or if you need a better plan or a lower price. Call Plus Benefits Health Insurance now at 800-378-1388. The call is 100% free and the help is real. Call 800-378-1388. That's 800-378-1388.
My friends swim no matter the season, but my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can sometimes take me out of the moment. Now, thanks to Skyrizi and clear skin, count me in. With Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. 3 out of 4 people achieve 90% clear skin at 4 months.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an